Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Final Lesson. Published by Random House. First, you'll hear the story without page-turn signals. Then you'll hear the story with page-turn signals. Returning to their sewer home one evening, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Michelangelo, Donatello, Leonardo, and Raphael discovered that their master Splinter was missing. It looked as if he had been taken captive. But where? And by whom? So what do we do now? Asked Raphael. Splinter's out there. I know Splinter's out there, dude, said Leonardo. But as ninjas, we've got to practice invisibility. We can't search the whole city for him. Splinter had been kidnapped by the evil ninja Shredder, who was now holding the rat prisoner in a secluded warehouse. The Shredder was furious at the turtles. They had stopped his gang from committing a crime. He wanted to put an end to their meddling now.
Who are these turtle freaks?
Demanded Shredder.
And who are you?
Splinter remained silent.
You will answer,
said Shredder. Meanwhile, the turtles went to seek advice from their friend April O'Neil, a TV news reporter. Raphael didn't feel like talking. Instead, he sat on the roof of April's building and watched the city below. He didn't know that he was being watched by some of Shredder's gang. Raphael was caught off guard. The gang surrounded the turtle and dragged him to the edge of the roof.
Crash!
Raphael came flying through April's living room skylight window. He lay very still.
Crash! Crash! Crash!
Shredder's gang followed, smashing the rest of the windows. The thugs were armed with heavy battle axes. As they swung them at the turtles, the weapons tore up huge chunks of floor. The room began to creak.
Snap!
The floor collapsed and the turtles, April, and Shredder's gang fell into the store below April's apartment. When the dust cleared, the turtles saw more thugs entering the store from the street.
There are too many of them, shouted Leonardo. We've got to get out of here. Over here, guys,
April cried. She had pulled some boxes away from the wall to reveal a small door.
This freight elevator leads to a back alley.
Michelangelo held back the thugs with his nunchakus, while Leonardo, Donatello, and April dragged Raphael into the elevator. Safely inside, April fished some car keys out of her pocket.
I have a place we can go, she said softly.
April took the turtles to her country farmhouse. With care, Raphael slowly recovered, but the turtles were still filled with despair. They each spent their days alone, puttering around the farm and countryside. They did anything to keep from thinking about what was bothering them all. And then one morning, Michelangelo could stand his pain no longer. He set out to find Leonardo, who was meditating in the woods.
I can't stand this, Leo,
said Michelangelo to his brother.
I'm sick with guilt. We did everything that Splinter taught us not to do. We've failed him.
I know, said Leonardo.
And now, with him gone...
Leonardo looked down at the ground.
He never taught us what to do without him.
Time passed slowly. Each day, Leonardo would sit in the woods and meditate on what he was most worried about. Splinter. And then, one day, when he was about to return to the farmhouse, he heard his name being whispered.
Leonardo.
It was Splinter's voice. Leonardo ran wildly through the woods and burst into the house, where the other turtles and April were gathered.
He's alive! Splinter's alive! Leonardo shouted. The turtles and April looked at each other with concern. Donatello approached his brother and put his hand on his shoulder. "We know, Leo," he said. "Of course he is. We all think he's alive." Leonardo threw Donatello's hand from his shoulder. "I don't think," he said, and he took a deep breath. "I know." That night, the turtles gathered around a bonfire in the woods. "Now, do what I told you," Leonardo explained. "Everybody close their eyes and concentrate. Concentrate hard." The turtles meditated together. The night was quiet and still, and from out of the flames there began to appear the image of Splinter. "I am proud of you, my sons," he said. The turtles gasped, but continued to concentrate. "Tonight you have learned the final and greatest truth of the ninja. That ultimate mastery comes not of the body, but of the mind. Together there is nothing your four minds cannot accomplish. Help one another. Remember the force that binds us, that brought me here tonight. That which I return with my final words. I love you, my sons." The image disappeared. The turtles sat in silence, filled with a new hope. Early the next morning, the turtles began to practice their fighting technique. "Stop trying to overpower each other," said Leonardo. "Remember what Splinter said." Michelangelo and Raphael lowered their weapons. "But this is how we always fight," said Michelangelo. Leonardo stood between the two. "All right, look," he said as he turned his mask around until his eyes were covered. He drew his katana and stood ready to fight. "Okay, now attack me, all three of you." "Come on, Leo," said Raphael. "You'll get hurt." Leonardo lashed out with the flat side of his sword and whacked Raphael on the arm. "Come on," he said. "Knock it off, Leo, that hurt," said Raphael. Leonardo whacked him again. "Come on," he shouted. Raphael was angry. "I'm warning you, Leo." Leonardo whacked him again. Harder. That did it. Raphael drew his sai and jumped at his brother. But Leonardo struck first, easily knocking the sai from Raphael's hand. A surprised Raphael drew his other sai and motioned for his brothers to join him. "Let's teach him a lesson," joked Raphael. The three brothers attacked Leonardo. 1, 2, 3. He disarmed them all. "Radical!" shouted Michelangelo. "Wicked bad!" cried Donatello. The three turtles turned to Raphael, who was still silent. Finally, a smile came over Raphael's face. "Totally awesome, dude! Like you rule the world," he said as he grabbed Leonardo. "Do you realize what this means?" "I do," said Leonardo as he turned around his mask. "It means we've learned our final lesson. It's time to start doing what we believe we can do, like finding Splinter." Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The First Battle, published by Random House. First, you'll hear the story without page-turn signals. Then you'll hear the story with page-turn signals. "Extra, extra!" a newsboy shouted. "Read all about it! Giant crime wave hits New York City!" People hurried down the steamy city street, eager to get home. No one noticed a hand reaching, grabbing a newspaper without paying for it,
then disappearing into the crowd. That night, April O'Neil had the same news to report on television. "This is more than just a series of small crimes," the ace reporter said on her late-night broadcast. "There is a major force at work, a criminal organization that steals cars, burgles homes, and shoplifts. Everyone should be on the lookout." As the news show ended, April turned from the camera and sighed. There was still plenty of work to do. The reporter bent over the papers on her desk. Hours went by, and when she looked up again, she was alone. Quickly gathering her things, April waved goodbye to the security guard and headed for her car across an empty parking lot. Thud, thud. April's footsteps echoed through the silent, deserted lot. She passed by an area where remote control vans were parked and stopped short. A group of young thugs were quietly stealing TVs from the news vans, and just a second after April spotted the crooks, they spotted her, too. "Bad timing," said one thug as he drew a knife. "You're telling me," April answered nervously. She turned and tried to run in the opposite direction, but the crooks were too quick for her, and too strong. "Help!" April screamed. "Help!" And then her mouth was taped shut, and she couldn't say anything more. Not far away, a manhole cover slowly rose from the ground. "What was that scream?" a voice whispered. 4 figures lifted themselves out from the sewer. They were the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Donatello, Raphael, Michelangelo, and Leonardo. And they knew someone was in trouble. A ninja dagger whistled through the air, shattering the streetlight above the vans. The lot was left in almost total darkness, but April could see 4 shadowy figures quietly moving in the distance. Suddenly, they sprang into action. Fighting with incredible speed and power, they surprised the crooks one by one. April strained to hear the voices of her rescuers, but all she heard was police sirens coming closer. In minutes, 2 police cars screeched into the parking lot, lighting up the area with their headlights. April blinked. All the crooks were now seated in a group, tightly tied together with TV cables. Her rescuers, whoever they had been, were nowhere to be seen. Who had saved her? The turtles stood nearby, unseen by April and the police. "She's safe now," Raphael said quietly, watching as a police officer helped April to her feet. "It's time to leave." The turtles turned and disappeared into the sewer they had come out of, silently pulling the manhole cover back into place after them. Far below in the deep, dark sewer, the turtles headed for home. Leonardo led the way through the long, winding passages. "We were awesome, bros!" he shouted, punching the air with his fist. "Let's hurry up," Michelangelo said, patting his stomach. "I'm starving!" Before long, the turtles reached the entrance to their den. A converted storage chamber filled with old furniture, the turtles' home was warm and inviting. A TV sat in one corner of the room, and on a faded chair in the opposite corner sat the ninja master, Splinter, the turtles' teacher and friend. Excited over the success of their first ninja mission, Leonardo knelt before Splinter. "We have had our first battle, Master Splinter," he said. "There were many, but we fought well. And now that we've had our first victory," he continued, "let's put an end to all crime in the city. We can use our ninja skills to bring peace back to the streets." The aging rat master rose to his feet. His soft, steady voice told of the wisdom of his years. "You have done well, my sons," Splinter said, motioning for the turtles to gather around him. "But remember to be careful. You must never be noticed.
If you are to do any good in this world, you must learn to strike hard and fade away.
Suddenly, all eyes turned to the television as a special news bulletin flashed across the screen. The reporter was April O'Neil.
It seems a secret force of do-gooders have decided to clean up New York City streets themselves,
She began.
Who are these mysterious heroes? And where do they come from?
Hey, that's us, Donatello shouted, pointing to the screen. We're stars. The turtles smiled at one another. They felt proud to be on TV.
You must never stop practicing your ninja skills, Splinter reminded them.
While his master spoke, Michelangelo snuck away to make a phone call. That's right, he whispered into the telephone. I want a large, thick-crust pizza with double cheese, pepperoni, mushrooms, and green peppers. Then Michelangelo quietly rejoined the others as they closed their eyes and began to meditate. But before long, the pizza arrived, and the turtles turned on their favorite party music. Our first battle, and now this, Michelangelo said, chuckling as he bit into a slice. This is excellent pizza. Totally excellent, corrected Leonardo, as everyone, even Splinter, burst out laughing.